With us on the line is Bob Ghetti, the host of the SuperTalk Eagle Hour. Morning, Bob. How are you doing?
Good morning, Lucien. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, it's an exciting time in the Pine Belt, an exciting time for the whole state with the Super Regional coming to Hattiesburg.
Well, it's amazing to think that with 2 wins, 3 years in a row, Mississippi universities would represent our state in the World Series. Of course, got to get through the next 2 games, but yes, you're right. A lot of passion and a lot of love for Southern Miss baseball and Scott Berry here in South Mississippi. So a lot of anticipation now about this weekend.
Well, and I would think there's something special, has to be motivating the team that Coach Berry's announced his retirement at the end of the season.
Oh, well, there's no question. He's a beloved figure down here. And, when you talk to people about Scott Berry, generally speaking, the first thing that they go to is what a great person and man he is, and then talk about his accomplishments as a baseball coach. But, yes, I talked to several players after the win Monday afternoon in Auburn when they captured the tournament championship. And to a player, they said that this is extra special and they're trying their best to get Scott Berry to Omaha in his last season. So, yes, it's almost like a Hollywood storyline in a lot of ways. And I'll tell you this very interestingly and quickly. It was in 2009 that the then coach Corky Palmer announced his retirement, and the Golden Eagles won the Super Regional at Georgia Tech, and then the regional at Georgia Tech, the Super Regional in Florida, went to the World Series. It's sort of eerie how this storyline seems to be following itself now. So a lot of hopes down here that the Golden Eagles can get by Tennessee and take him to the big stage in his last year.
And 2009 was the last appearance by the Golden Eagles in Omaha, correct?
That's correct, yes. That was the year they won the Georgia Tech Regional, then the Florida Super Regional, and that was Corky Palmer's last year, who was the third coach in Southern Miss history, Scott being the fourth.
Do we have times yet? I know the Super Regional starts on Saturday, but have game times been announced yet?
Yeah, 2 p.m. will be the first game on Saturday, and then it's a TBA on Sunday and Monday. Obviously, it's the best 2 out of 3.
And how does I suspect everybody who's listening to the show is going to be a Southern Miss fan this weekend, whether they were a week ago or not. But how is the matchup shaping up with Tennessee?
Tennessee, much like Southern Miss, is a pretty experienced team. Their experience seems to be, and their older players seem to be in their pitching staff. Southern Miss has a more experienced offensive team and field position with a relatively young pitching staff. What's really remarkable, we think about this year, is that the Golden Eagles lost their first 5 relief pitchers to the Major League Draft last year. 2 of their 3 weekend pitchers, 1 transferred to Florida and 1 graduated. So they had to completely rebuild the pitching staff. So you're going to have a young pitching staff at Southern Miss, an older pitching staff with Tennessee is our understanding. But offensively, the Golden Eagles appear to be an older and perhaps more experienced baseball team. It should be a great matchup. Tennessee did really, really well out at Clemson and their regional. The Golden Eagles, of course, won the Auburn Regional, so we're really expecting a really close, pretty dynamic showdown between these 2 baseball programs.
If people are interested, I've heard off the air that it may be impossible to get tickets. Is it possible to get tickets to the Super Regional at this point, or should you plan to get comfortable at home and catch it on ESPNU?
I guess anything's possible, Lucien, but my suggestion would be, if you don't have a ticket, make plans to have a barbecue and invite some friends over to your house. Tickets are very, very, very hard to come by.
And starting with season ticket holders, is that sort of the starting place for these?
Yeah, it's funny. I was just reading some stuff on social media this morning where people were, kind of upset about that. But really, it's the only fair way you can do it. People that invested all year and bought season tickets have to get the first option. learned yesterday that under NCAA rules, 600 tickets are allocated to Tennessee. 300 tickets have to be allocated to the general public, and the rest go to season ticket holders. I'm not sure how they're going to work that out since the season was a sellout. So there were no tickets available for purchase after the start of the season. But that's the rule. 600 to Tennessee, 300 to the general public. The remaining tickets go to season ticket holders.
Which makes sense. I mean, these are the people who've been investing in the baseball program all year, and it ought to get first priority.
Yes,
it's not a perfect analogy, but it makes me think a little bit about when you go to church all year and you show up at Easter and everybody packs in. You go, well, that's kind of normally where I sit, but I'm glad you're here. Hope you'll come back next week. Sort of similar deal here. These are the folks who've been here all year supporting the team. I'm sure I'll get some feedback. I don't mean that theologically. I just mean it's we ought to, the people who are investing in the baseball program ought to get first priority. Robert from Oak Grove says it's over $300 for a ticket right now, which makes sense if they're that scarce.
I guess probably some people that have tickets are going to post them on StubHub, that sort of thing, and sell them. And I guess that's their right to do them. What we wish Southern Miss fans would do that have tickets is come to the game, and or I guess if they're going to sell them to Southern Miss fans. But of course, it's their ticket, and they can do whatever they choose to do with it.
What's the energy like in Hattiesburg right now with this coming up?
It's pretty crazy. Businesses are ramped up. There's a lot of buzz in the public. Hattiesburg's not a extremely large town, and there's a great love for Southern Miss here. So energy level is very, very high. This is the second year in a row that Southern Miss has hosted a super regional. And I will say, and I don't want to in any way downplay the energy level. People are very, very excited. Last year was a little unique, however, with Ole Miss in the super regional. So obviously, if you have two Mississippi teams clashing in a super regional, that adds a little spice to it. But 1 to 10, I would say the energy level right now is about a 9.5, and we've still got a couple days to go before the baseball game starts.
You make a good point there. You forget, or at least I forget, what an economic impact hosting a regional or a super regional, really any of these major sporting events. Just the number of people who are going to come to town who wouldn't otherwise, are going to go to restaurants, stay in hotels, maybe pick up a souvenir or two while they're there. I mean, it's got to be great for the economy there.
Well, no question. In fact, just yesterday, Jeremy McClain, the athletics director, was on our show, and he had a meeting with a group of people earlier in the day, and they believe that the Super Regional this weekend will bring in a $5 million boost in hotel costs, fuel costs, restaurants, that sort of thing. So $5 million for the community here is a big deal. There's no question about that.
I'm a little bit embarrassed I don't know this, but remind me, when you have two teams paired against each other in a super regional, neither of whom was a regional host, which is the situation here, how did Hattiesburg get chosen? Is that automatic, or was that a discretionary choice by the tournament committee?
Well, it goes back to the tournament committee, the same committee that decided where the regional tournaments would be held, made that decision. It's my understanding the decision was made early yesterday morning, and that's when Southern Miss was informed. But that strictly, was a decision made by the NCAA baseball selection committee. It's kind of odd, in a lot of situations, who'll host the super regional by how they were seeded. For example, if a number 1 seed wins a super regional and it's paired up with another regional, or wins a regional paired up with another regional that the 2 seed wins, then the 1 seed automatically gets the bid. But in this case, both Tennessee and Southern Miss were the number 2 seeds in their respective tournaments, and therefore it went back to the committee. I think the factors, and they don't really have to reveal the factors, but from what I read, one big factor was that Southern Miss has a bigger baseball stadium than Tennessee. And in last year's regional, Southern Miss averaged about 5,600 people a game. Tennessee averaged 4,500.
Interesting.
So, but they didn't really reveal the reason.
Bob, you got time to stick with us for a little bit more?
Absolutely.
We're still with us on the line is Bob Ghetti, the host of the SuperTalk Eagle Hour, talking about the Super Regional that's going to start this Saturday at 2 o'clock in Hattiesburg between Southern Mississippi and Tennessee to decide who will go to the College World Series. If you'd like to be part of the conversation, have questions about the Super Regional or thoughts on Southern Miss athletics in general, hit us up at the C Spire text line at 601-879-4395. Bob, I know before the break we were talking about how difficult tickets are. I mean, if you're at this point, if you're looking for tickets, the best thing to do to be looking at the secondary markets, the stub hubs, et cetera, or where ought people be looking if they're still hoping to get a seat actually at the games?
I think that's their best bet, but I just went to StubHub. I've got you two deals here, Lucien. You can buy two general admission tickets for $1,900. I'm sorry,
smokes.
$800, or you can buy two chair back seats behind home plate and a parking pass for $1,900. So there's your deal.
Wow. I mean, look, too bad for the casual. I mean, that's tough on the casual fan who maybe isn't a season ticket holder who wants to go. But it is exciting for Southern that there's that much, that so many people are excited about going that they can command that sort of crazy premium for the tickets. It's just a shame that money's not going into Southern Miss's budget as opposed to a private citizen's.
Yeah, I love Southern Miss baseball as much as anybody on the planet, but $1,900 for two tickets might be a little steep. However, that's for the whole tournament, so I guess that's a bargain.
I guess it all comes down to how you look at it, but I'm like you. I think for $1,900, I'd probably rather have a barbecue at my house and watch it on a big screen television than sit there and pay that kind of money. But that's exciting. Now, for folks who can't get tickets, do you know? And I know I referenced a network earlier, but where can you watch and listen to the baseball game this weekend if you're not going to be there in person?
Okay, it's my understanding that this tournament is going to be broadcasted on ESPNU.
Okay.
Obviously, you can also go to ESPN Plus, I believe, and pick the game up. But if you're not into streaming and maybe you just have cable TV, ESPNU is scheduled to carry the game. And there are a number of Southern Miss radio affiliates across the state. John Cox, who's actually going to co-host our show with us today, long-time play-by-play voice for the Golden Eagle Athletic Department. The normal the normal Southern Miss stations will be carrying the game live, of course. And again, then it'll be broadcasted on ESPN. So there are ample ways, obviously, to, and then there's the Southern Miss Athletic app. Every university has that now. And so there are really three different options that you have to follow the baseball games.
One question that's come to us on the C Spire text line, are there any plans to upgrade the baseball facilities in light of how much success USM's had lately?
Yes, Athletic Director Jeremy McClain tells us that those are preliminary studies going on right now. One problem that they have, I think, in examining an expansion is if you go behind the outfield wall, there is a big drop-off, physical drop-off. So that would be a probably impossible place. To the left of the ball field are apartment buildings, so it would be difficult to expand there. But there is some potential room to expand down the right field line, and I think they're looking right now at some feasibility studies to see, because this was the first year that the regular season was sold out completely. Second year of the Super Regional, and we're just talking about the demand for tickets. So yes, there is some preliminary studies underway for expansion of Pete Taylor Park, but nothing specific at the moment.
So, do we know? Who's gonna be the starting pitcher on Saturday? Is that just gonna be the regular Friday night starter, or is that known at this point?
Well, it hadn't been announced, but if you follow Scott Berry very closely, he sticks to his rotation. So every expectation is that All-American Tanner Hall from Zachary, Louisiana. He's a junior, first team All-America again this year. In fact, the first Southern Miss baseball player, I believe, to make first team All-America 2 consecutive years. So Tanner Hall has been a dazzling star down here, and undoubtedly will start the game Saturday. They'll throw their very best arm to try to win the first game for sure.
I don't want to get you in trouble, but if you had to predict how this weekend would go, you want to offer any sort of predictions?
Well, I would suspect that Saturday's game, if it goes like you would think, would be a low-scoring game. I'm sure that Tennessee's Friday night guy is very, very good, or he wouldn't be pitching there. It's hard to say, Lucien. One thing I've learned about following and covering college baseball is there is so much parity now in the sport that on a given night, anyone can beat anyone. And if you look, you can look at the top 20 teams right now and go down their schedule. You'll see some games they lost that you think, did they really lose that? So I think it's going to be razor close. My heart tells me to go for USM because obviously we want to see these kids go to Omaha and follow Mississippi State and Ole Miss to the big dance. That would just be remarkable, I think.
How fantastic! This is a little bit of a cliche, but I do think it's true. It feels like in college baseball, so much of it comes down to getting hot at the right time. I mean, nobody would have guessed in February of 2001 that Mississippi State was going to win the national championship. I don't think. Of 21, and then in 22, Ole Miss was on the bubble to even make it into a regional and went on to win the national championship. So hopefully Southern is getting hot at just the right time to go all the way. At least go to Omaha, but certainly would love to see them go all the way.
Well, if this is any indication, they've won 23 out of their last 26 games. So they've been on a pretty good hot streak. And but I understand that Tennessee is on a hot streak as well. So we interviewed a Tennessee player yesterday that's actually from this area, and he described it as an epic showdown. I think that was probably a pretty accurate description.
Well, to your point, it was different last year when you had Ole Miss and Southern in the Super Regional, but now we're down to one Mississippi team competing to go to the College World Series. So hopefully all of us are Golden Eagles for the rest of this baseball season. How Southern Miss to the top? I mean, what do those of us who are newfound Golden Eagles need to be saying for the rest of the baseball tournament?
Well, that's exactly right. Southern Miss to the top, and just remember, there are a lot of Mississippi kids on this baseball team, and they represent our state very well. Having the privilege of being around a lot of college baseball teams and in my work on the Eagle Hour, I can tell you that these are outstanding kids, and I'm sure it's the same with the kids, on Tennessee. But they're, generally speaking, all really good students and all really polite, respectable kids, and you know that both teams will be given every ounce of energy they have this weekend to win.
Well, it's going to be an exciting weekend, and it's an exciting time for Mississippi. I mean, there's really just not a better place to be a college baseball fan than the state of Mississippi, with the quality of our programs generally and the success that they continue to have.
Well, I'll tell you this. Early this year, I think it was maybe the second weekend, the University of Illinois was here. And we had their play-by-play guy on our show, and his comment to us when he met us was, it's great to be in the universe of college baseball here in Mississippi. So in Illinois, they were very much aware of the tradition of the three great baseball programs here in Mississippi. We're really excited.
Well, it's exciting stuff, and Bob, thank you for being with us. We've had Bob Ghetti, the host of the SuperTalk Eagle Hour, with us to talk about the Super Regional starting Saturday at 2 p.m. At the University of Southern Mississippi. Thanks, Bob, for being with us.
Thank you for having me, Lucien.